But there's one thing a Saiyan always keeps, his stride!
So this Majin Vegeta animation actually ended up taking a lot longer than it was supposed to. I started this over 3 weeks ago and have over 22 hours of footage, and in total this is probably more like a 30-hour project. This is supposed to come out in like a week. It's meant to be quick, because I've actually done animations like this in the past. If you've seen my other videos, the unit reviews, I used to do these for the characters that I would review there. And I did Gohan first, and that was kind of the first time I ever did anything like this. And then I did Trunks. But those ones I actually did in a program called DaVinci Resolve that you've probably heard of. It's a video editing program, and it's not meant to do this at all. I was forcing it against its will to try and animate these, and it was not happy about it. It crashed more times than I can even remember, and it crashed my entire computer a number of times. It was not happy about it. I wasn't happy about it. But when I did the Tapion video that I did recently, I ended up wanting to animate his card subtly. Not too much, not to the extent that I did with Vegeta here, but you know, just a little bit. And I ended up trying to do it with Blender, which is a 3D software I'm extremely familiar with, and it actually turned out really well, I think. So then I started doing it. I had the idea to do it with a different character, I didn't know who, but then this Vegeta came out and I was like, I gotta do this. Though actually now his event is gone, that's how long it took me to get this done, but oh well. And I started this by actually upscaling all the images by 4 times. So this Vegeta is actually in 8K. That can be either a good or bad thing. It looks really good, but I ran into a lot of technical issues while I was doing this. What you're seeing here is me just cutting the image into different pieces that I can animate and layer on top of each other. And when I cut something out, I have to fill in what was behind it because the thing above it is going to be moving and kind of exposing it. So I just use content aware fill in Photoshop, honestly. It actually works surprisingly well. It's not perfect, but you really don't see those areas anyway. As long as something's there that just kind of vaguely looks right, it'll actually work surprisingly well. Here I already know kind of basically what I want to do. So I have a different layer for the clothes, I know I want to animate those. I have different layers for the different fingers and the hands that I want to animate, different layer for the face, and different layer for all the individual pieces of hair that have to be animated. Honestly, the whole Photoshop process is pretty tedious, but we're past that now and I'm getting things into Blender. So this was actually animated in 3D. It's 2D animated in 3D. And that's just because Blender is a really good piece of software. It's a 3D piece of software, and it works really well for this because you can render it basically as a 2D image, you know. It doesn't actually matter that it's 3D because you're rendering it out in 2D. And so here I just bring in all the different layers and I make a skeleton. And then what you see me painting here are called weight paints, and that controls which part of the skeleton moves which part of the image or which part of the mesh. And that's a really easy and convenient way to actually animate stuff like this. And you can see here I'm going back and forth between Photoshop and Blender, and if you saw, I was exporting out versions of these images on a black background. That's because there's this problem. I don't know if it's a problem in Blender, I don't know if it's a problem in Photoshop, I don't know if it's a problem that's been fixed in Photoshop because I'm using an older version, but the way transparency is read is kind of weird, and there'll just be white spots around the edges of all the images and it looks really bad. But while I was doing the Tapion video, I realized I could use a separate non-transparent image on a black background and then just plug that into the color and use the other one for the alpha, and then it ends up working out alright. The problem is that for each individual layer of this animation here, I'm using 2 8K images. That's for the body, that's for all the fingers, that's for the clothes, and that's for every single piece of hair. And that's a lot, and I end up paying the price for that. Hopefully there's a workaround for this that I can discover later on. Hopefully in the future I'm smart enough to just do it in 4K because that's plenty. But oh well, that's what I was dealing with here. And here you can see me animating the individual fingers. The reason I cut them out is because I want them moving on top of the hand, obviously, and I don't want any weird warping happening. And here I'm animating the clothing, or I already animated the clothing, just using some procedural noise as displacement. And that's one of the advantages of this being in 3D. It's on a physical plane that I can warp in 3D space and use to get whatever kind of effect I need. And here is me cutting out the third finger because I didn't end up being able to animate it the way I thought without having to cut it out. And here I'm just adjusting parts of the clothing to prevent clipping as the clothing moves, and it, kind of exposing what's behind it, even though that's not how clothes work. And then also reducing the displacement in parts where the clothing is touching the skin to make sure it doesn't kind of detach in a weird way like it would there. And yeah, and here I'm animating the face, well, rigging the face. And I'm not sure in the end if I'm happy with the way I animated the face. On one hand, I feel like it's too subtle and you can barely notice it. On the other hand, I feel like it's too much and it looks kind of weird. So I don't know. Maybe it's actually in the middle and it looks fine. I'm really not sure, but I couldn't really figure out what to do with the face, honestly. Looking back, I really don't know what I was trying to do. When I animated Tapion, there is an animation on his face, and that wasn't even something planned. That was just, as I was making it, I realized that that would look good. Here it was just like, well, I gotta animate the face, I guess I gotta do something. Oh, and there, if you noticed those flashes of like purple, that was Blender not being able to load all of the images, all of the textures I needed because I ran out of memory. Yeah, that's what happens when you try to use like 12 8K images all at once. It just ended up being that I had to render these all out in different layers, which is kind of annoying, but it ended up turning out fine. And here I'm rigging and animating the hair. And actually, if I could go back and redo this, I would change the way I animated the hair. Not the way I rigged it, that's all fine, but the way I actually animated it. Because I used procedural noise for the entirety of the animation, and I just tweaked the parameters of that noise for every single bone to make it sort of have the effect that I wanted. But if I could go back, I would just manually animate the hair flowing, and then just add a little bit of noise on top. That's not what I did, and I think it would have worked out better if I did, because the way I animated it was for the bones at the base of the hair, for the bigger parts of the hair, I have those moving slower to give it like kind of a sense of volume, but the ends of the hair I have moving faster to give it a sense of sort of, energy or whatever. And I think I could have achieved that manually, and it would have looked a lot better, because since every single bone is moving completely randomly, you have some times where one bone will be moving the other direction, the bone right above it is moving the exact opposite direction, and the bone right above that one is moving the exact opposite direction. So it's kind of this really weird effect that kind of looks really unnatural. So yeah, live and learn. By the time I realized that I should have done it differently, it would have taken way too long to go back and redo it, so I just left it. I think it looks fine, but I think it definitely could have looked better. There's a lot of things in this animation that I think could have been better if I had a bit more time, but this had to come out eventually. This was supposed to come out in like a week. This was supposed to be a quick video, but it did not end up turning out that way. So you can see here me just testing the different animations of the different layers of hair. Here I am manually rigging and animating this part of clothing on his boot because the procedural animation just wasn't quite cutting it for me, so I just went in and did it manually. And here you can see me kind of putting all the layers together in one final video and just kind of seeing how it all feels in the end. And here I'm animating his chest, the sort of breathing animation that I actually got from looking at the other Ultras. And in here we can see the effects layers. Now, this was a lot of fun. Here I'm cutting the electricity into different little pieces and reusing some geometry nodes, which are basically just nodes, code that determine how your geometry looks. I don't know. But I'm reusing some I used for the arts card flyby animation I did for unit review. The one for the ultimate arts, I had like the electricity flashing. I made a little script for that. Reusing it here for this electricity. It's basically just making it randomly flash on and off between visible and not visible. Here I'm cutting out all these individual particles, putting those into a collection and using those as meshes for a particle system. A bit over the top, but I think it actually looks pretty good. And a lot of these are just kind of manually animating, putting some distortion, rendering it out, and then adding it all together with a bunch of bloom, of course, because that's how stuff looks good. You make it all shiny. And I think this is when things really started coming together. And oh, this is the sort of eye thing that Ultras do. This I was really unsure about. Here I'm just trying to make it using the magic selection tool. I don't think that was the right way to go. I think the way I'm doing this here, by manually just painting it was a lot better. It actually ended up turning out pretty good, I think. And here's me actually animating it in 3D, 2D, whatever, making the pupils shake a little bit, and then adding some particle effects, and of course, bloom. And I think it actually turned out pretty well. Not perfect, but I think it actually pretty good. I think it turned out pretty well. Here's the little kind of energy wipe transition thing that Ultras do. This is not very good, I don't think. I think it could have been a lot better, but for what it is, I think it turned out fine. It's only on screen for a few frames. And here's the Majin M that I kind of was trying to mimic the sort of black ink effect that a lot of Legends animations have. I think this is probably the worst part of the animation. I think it turned out not great. Could have been a lot better. It's only on there for just a little while, and the opacity is turned way down, but I think it's decent. The idea is there. I think that's definitely one thing that if I had more time, I would have been able to do a lot better. But oh well, I think overall I'm actually pretty proud of this. I'm actually really proud of this. I think it looks pretty good. I do want to do more of these in the future, but not right away. I keep telling myself I'm going to do quick videos, but then I keep getting myself stuck into these really, really long projects. Hopefully I'm going to avoid that. If I do another one, it's going to be in the background, kind of over a while. I was thinking of doing Broly, because my boy out there, I know you might be watching this video, my one and only fan, he suggested Broly, and I think I actually have some pretty good ideas for what I could do with Broly. Here I'm just doing sound design. I have a just folder of a bunch of Dragon Ball sounds from, I think, some game. I really don't remember where it's from, but I downloaded it long time ago, and I use it for all these animations I do to have some, Dragon Ball sound effects in there. And I think the sound design in this is actually pretty decent. I think I'm actually okay at that in general, for as someone with no actual experience. I think this turned out pretty good overall, and that's coming to the end of the animation here. Definitely do want to do more of these, but my god, do they take a long time. If you have any suggestions for characters you want to see animated in this way, let me know. I would love to do every character, obviously, but I don't think I have that. I don't think I have enough time in my lifetime, honestly. Broly is definitely up there for one of the next ones I want to do, but I have big ideas for him, and this was supposed to be a quick video, and it took 3 weeks. So his is probably going to take, like, I don't know, a few months. I'm not sure. Definitely want to do more of these. Definitely want to do some other kinds of videos as well. I want to make videos quickly. Ideally, I want to be making a video every week. That's what this was supposed to be. It ended up taking a while longer. So you should be seeing, hopefully, some smaller, quicker videos soon, and then some more bigger projects kind of rolling out over time. If there's anything else you want to see from me, just let me know. If you have any questions about this, let me know. I spend so much time on this. I am more than happy to talk about it. And if you want to use these techniques, this workflow to do something like this yourself, go ahead, that'd be sick. It's actually surprisingly not that hard, it's just extremely time consuming. But yeah, I think that's basically it for me here. Thanks for watching.